Ethiopia traumatically violates women's dignity. From Vatican News by Greta Giglio and Deborah Castellano Lubov, May 28, 2025. An award-winning exhibition in Rome captures how amid the often forgotten but dramatic war in the Tigray region, women are facing grave violations of human dignity, especially from sexual violence being used as a weapon of war. Women's human dignity continues to be violated amid the ongoing war in Ethiopia's Tigray region, with sexual violence employed as a weapon of war. As documented in a recent report written by L'Osservatore Romano's Greta Giglio, Cinzia Canneri, winner of the World Press Photo International Photojournalism Award in the Africa Long-Term Projects category, for her photo reportage, Women's Bodies as Battlefields, captured or at least provided a glimpse of the daily horrors these voiceless women are faced to endure. Ms. Canneri's exhibition is open in central Rome's Palazzo delle Esposizioni until 8th June and documents the harrowing experiences of Eritrean and Tigrayan women subjected to sexual violence in conflict zones. Tigray conflict is grave humanitarian emergency. The war, which began in northern Ethiopia in late 2020 between Ethiopian federal forces and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, has killed tens of thousands, displaced millions, triggered famine, and devastated local infrastructure. Despite its catastrophic impact, the Tigray conflict has received comparatively less global attention than other wars and conflicts. Sexual violence as a weapon of war. Ms. Canneri's exhibition reminds the world of the tragic consequences on women from the conflict, countless numbers of whom bear on their skin the marks of violence that have turned their bodies into battlefields. In fact, the photographer decries sexual violence is used as a weapon of war, both systematically and for political purposes. Largely underreported, rarely investigated. These human rights violations, the photographer warned, risk being ignored because they are rarely investigated and generally largely underreported. According to Reuters, the war in Ethiopia has killed thousands and uprooted millions. Tigrayans, the agency notes, tell of many arrests to force people into the local army, and residents say that even the elderly and pregnant women are among those rounded up. Institutions often deny the violence. Meeting them was very special, the photographer recounted, because where there is suffering, there is often also a profound ability to connect with others. Community life is essential for Eritrean and Tigrayan women. Abandoned by parents or husbands, women in refugee camps support each other, even by documenting the violence they've experienced. One of Ms. Canneri's photographs shows this exactly, hands reaching out to the camera, holding pieces of paper. Staying in villages further exposes to risk of sexual violence. Women began to write down their names, where the violence occurred, the date, what happened, Ms. Canneri recalled, suggesting they cannot report it. Institutions, she said, deny the violence, which becomes a stigma for women, but they want people to talk about what happened. They want to give voice to this pain. Some women, she suggested, also choose to enlist in the army as a form of protection because staying in villages exposes them to the risk of sexual violence, and crossing borders endangers their lives. Unimaginable horrors. Their stories transmit intense pain, including that the photographer remembers of Zara, a fictional name, who was raped by 3 soldiers in her home. When they entered, the photographer explained a pot had been boiling on the fire, and when Zara's little girl began to cry, to silence her, one of the soldiers threw the boiling pot on her, disfiguring her abdomen. In the photo capturing Zara and her daughter, Ms. Canneri stated, "Their faces are covered because women suffer stigma after such violence." The photographer, moreover, remembered speaking quite a bit with the mother about whether to take the photo because of the fear of exposing the child, but in the end we chose this pose. Today, she said, the daughter attends an Italian Salesian school thanks to the Amici di Adwa Association. Finally, faced with this traumatic and harrowing reality for these women in Tigray, Ms. Canneri underscored, photography can sometimes be a vehicle for change, suggesting a story of suffering doesn't always end in a single shot, but can evolve and become a new narrative.
Thank you. stand here for that kid. Over there. Okay, several audiences this way. If we can get you.
Evelina, I know it's graphic, but describe to us what is happening to women and girls in the Tigray region of Ethiopia.
Sure. Of course, recent months have seen a lot of evidence coming from the region, shedding light on the dire situation of Tigrayans in Ethiopia. And of course, we've seen evidence of mass killings. We've seen evidence of torture, abductions, and many other atrocities. But of course, this evidence was followed also by evidence of the use of rape and sexual violence against Tigrayan women. And at the end of January 2021, we've seen evidence from the UN Special Representative on sexual violence in the conflict, Pramila Patten, reporting on the serious allegations of sexual violence in Tigray, including a high number of alleged rapes in the capital of Mekelle. But subsequently, of course, the more and more evidence emerged. And of course, this brings us to this new report produced by Amnesty International and published only a few days ago that adds to the evidence. It concludes that sexual violence in the context of the conflict has been accompanied by a shocking level of brutality, including beatings, death threats, and ethnic slurs. And it is often accompanied by threats and by additional acts of physical and psychological torture. And as one of the Tigrayan women who testified reported, they raped me one after the other. I don't know if they realized I was pregnant. I don't know if they realized I was a person. Some of the abused women and girls were held in sexual slavery for several weeks. And as Amnesty International concludes, the patterns of sexual violence emerging from survivors indicate that the violations have been a part of a strategy to terrorize, degrade, and humiliate both the victims and the ethnic group. And of course, we already mentioned that of course, there are so many perpetrators involved in the atrocities. And it's very important to emphasize that Amnesty International classified the atrocities as crimes against humanity or war crimes. But we cannot forget that these atrocities can also amount to genocide. There could be genocidal methods to bring about the destruction of the community. So this is yet another element that needs to be...
Absolutely, and forgive me for jumping in, but you did mention this issue of genocide and ethnic cleansing to a certain degree, I believe. So I just want to quote something that the Prime Minister of Ethiopia has mentioned, which is referencing the Tigray people as a cancer and wanting them wiped out. So, as succinctly as you possibly can.
Latest barrage came in an Amharic tweet this week. he characterizes the Tigrayans as weeds. We will work to remove the weed, but while removing the weed, we will try our best not to damage the wheat. Many observers have characterized his comment as dehumanizing. In the same statement, he also called the Tigrayans a cancer and a devil. His opponents accuse Ahmed of committing genocide.
For the past few months, what I really wanted to talk to you all about is what he said in regards to the reports of rape and sexual violence being used as a weapon of war in the conflict. Here's a short clip from his address in response to a question about these rapes.
ሰብአዊ መብት ጥሰት የሚሰቃዩ ትግራይ ስላለው ችግር የሚሰቃዩ ሰዎች የሰሜን ዕዝ ጥቃት በሚመለከት ምንም አያነሱም። ሰሜን ዕዝ እንኳን አልተጠቃም፣ ተዋረደ። ሴቶች እኮ አሁን በወንድ የተደፈሩት የኛ ወታደሮች ግን በሳንጃ ተደፍረዋል።
For those of you who can't speak Amharic, he basically said, while their women might have been raped, our soldiers were stabbed with daggers. Now, in my opinion, this is one of the most disgusting things I've seen a head of state say in my lifetime. I may only be in my early 20s, but Jesus Christ, he basically just equated the mass rape of thousands of women who have nothing to do with the warring parties involved who are actually, fighting this conflict. He compared their rape to the killing of soldiers who sign up to die. Like, I'm sorry, I have respect for all those who decide to go into military service. But as a soldier, you are accepting the real possibility that you will be killed in combat. So to compare this rampant sexual violence against the Tigrayan women, to compare that to killing soldiers who sign up to die in combat is just mind-blowing.